Hi, today we're going to talk about how to reach new markets for your work online using an online campaign. Now, I don't talk about online stuff that often because I am a firm believer that doing things in person is when you get your best results. But there are some things that really work really well online. And so I'm going to talk to you about something that worked for Drew and I that enabled us to earn about $22,000 in sales off of an online campaign that we did that took 6 weeks. So I'll tell you a little bit about what we did, and then I'll give you some tips on how you can do it yourself. A few years ago, we didn't have anything lined up for the month of September. We didn't have any projects, which meant we didn't have any money coming in. And we were getting really nervous and we said, oh my gosh, we got to do something. So we came up with this idea to do a campaign called 20 Paintings in 20 Days. Now, while you're listening to me tell you this story, don't think you have to do 20 paintings in 20 days. I want you to think of how you can do a long-term campaign in a way that works for you. But this is what we did. Since Drew paints really fast, we said, okay, we're gonna do 20 paintings in 20 days with the intention of selling every single painting. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna post this painting in progress in the morning, have Drew work on it, post another in progress shot in the afternoon, and then in the evening when the painting's finished, post the finished photo of it with a little story about the piece of art. Now, we didn't really know how this was going to go, but we were surprised that in the end, every single painting sold almost every day. Now, the first few days, it moved a little slow. But what happened was because we were consistent with our promise and our regular posting, and we got the word out to people on our newsletter list as well, that they could go to either Facebook or Instagram and see what was being created every day. We brought awareness to it, and in the consistency, we built up people who were following, and we got a lot of new followers because of it, because people were saying, hey, you got to see what this guy is doing, 20 paintings in 20 days. And then we decided that after a couple weeks into it, posting a painting every day and selling the painting every day, we started getting more than one person wanting to buy the painting. And sometimes we'd have like 5 or 6 people who would want the painting of the day. And obviously only one person can get the painting. So we started making prints of the paintings. And we said, well, you can't get the original, but we could sell you a print. And we just made these small prints, and they were $29.95. And so we ended up selling prints. It worked incredibly well. So after that, we didn't do it again for a couple years because we got busy after that and we didn't really need to. But a couple years went by, and then we hit another snag in the road where business was slow. And we said, what if we did 50 paintings in 50 days? And actually that was Drew's idea, and I said, I don't know if you can do that. I mean, that is really hard. It's a lot of work committing to a long-term posting and creating every single day. But he insisted, and so we did it again. And this time, this was when we made about $22,000 in sales of the originals, which were small. A lot of them sold for $250. Some of them sold for $400. It just depended on the size. But we sold a ton of art prints. And by the end of that 50 paintings in 50 days, we had a lot of people that wanted to commission Drew to do similar paintings for them. So we got a lot of commissions out of it as well. I've seen artists do campaigns like, I haven't seen anybody do anything like that, which I'm describing to you, but I have seen campaigns like this one artist named Amanda Giacomini, and I mentioned her in my book. She decided a few years ago that she was going to paint 10,000 Buddhas. Now, this was not really strictly an online campaign, but it was like a worldwide campaign where she would go and paint these giant murals, and each mural would have hundreds of Buddhas. You know, the Buddhas are like this big, and she would use stencils. And I think she became very well known because of this 10,000 Buddha campaign that she did. When I think about an artist who was doing something like this before the internet was even invented, Weiland, who is a marine artist, I think he's like in his late 50s now, I'm not sure. But when he was younger, when he was in his 20s, probably in the late 70s, he was just a new artist in Laguna Beach trying to make a name for himself. And he decided, because he loves whales and he loves marine life, he wanted to bring attention to the danger of whales being, the danger that whales were encountering being attacked in the wild. And so he wanted to bring attention to it. And he said, what if I painted a whale-sized mural on the side of a building? So he painted his first mural and he called it a whaling wall. And he painted it in Laguna Beach. Giant whale-sized mural on the side of this very large building. And while he was painting it, a reporter came and questioned him and said, Weiland, you're almost finished this painting. What's next? And Weiland thought for a moment, and then he said, I'm going to paint 100 of these walls. And he said he was going to paint 100 walls, and he gave himself a deadline. I think it was like 20 years. I'm going to paint 100 of these walls in 20 years. Well, he did paint 100 of those walls, and he did it before the deadline was up. And painting, now that's a long-term campaign. It's not 20 paintings in 20 days. It's 100 giant murals in 20 years. But it's what made him famous. It's the Wailing Walls, that campaign was what led him to it. So for you, I'm going to give you a few tips on how you can do an online campaign that will bring you more followers and help you sell more art and connect with more people. So the first thing is you want to give a lot of thought to your campaign, and it can be for a period of time, like 20 days, or the campaign could be until you complete something like 10,000 Buddhas or 100 murals. So come up with what your campaign is. Then, before you start your campaign, before you begin the work on it, get the word out that you're going to do it. Set a start date and let people know. If you have an email list, this is the best thing to use to get the word out to people who care about what you're doing. Because people who care about what you're doing are going to be on your email list. So get the word out. And then the third thing is, and this is the most important, keep your promise. Do what you say you're going to do when you said you were going to do it. This is your reputation. This is how people will know if they can trust you, if you're worth following. You want to keep your promise. You want to show up or post or whatever it is that you promise to do, you're going to do it every single time. Because if people can't count on you, then they're not going to give two poops about what you have to say. Your reputation is everything. It takes time to build a reputation as someone who can be trusted, and it only takes a few seconds to destroy a reputation that is really hard to bounce back from. So that's about all I have to say about this topic. I appreciate every single one of you that is listening to me blather on and on about this stuff, because you actually give my life purpose. Until I started doing this stuff, I didn't really know what my purpose was, and thanks to all of you, all of my video listeners, you've helped me. You've really given me a path to go on in my life. So, kind of chokes me up when I think about it. Thanks. I'll see you next time. Ciao.